Thank you so much for joining us today for the Pastor's Potluck Podcast. Here on the Pastor's Potluck, it's similar to a normal potluck where you might get something that you want and there may be something that you just want to pass up altogether. And that's okay. There's something here for everybody. Our goal here is to encourage you and maybe in the process entertain you. If you're ready, let's dig in. Welcome to another episode of the Pastor's Potluck Podcast.
Welcome.
We have some new scenery.
Yes.
It's lights
If you're
shining up on the wall behind us.
That's right. If you're watching history unfold.
Yes. We found lights that weren't being used in a different closet, and we said, I could do that.
There you go.
I could plug that into the wall, and that's where we're at. Welcome to a better episode of the Pastor's Potluck Podcast.
Because of the lighting.
Because of the light. We have
And
better
if you're
lighting.
only listening, it's still better.
Yes.
Somehow.
And if this is at night, just turn on a light and you will get the experience yourself.
That's right. If you're in the car, turn on that dome light. The cops will not come for you, I promise. They used to back in the 90s.
Yes.
But now they don't.
Yes. Back in the 90s. What's up? How's your day going?
It's going good.
Are you kind of like back on track a little bit with your sleep because you had the lock in on Sunday night to Monday morning?
Yeah, we just reopened our youth space, grand reopening, and so we decided to make sure it was an actual youth space. So when you walk in, you got this scent of teenagers have been here. So we're like, how do you do that to a brand new space? Well, you have a lock-in. You do an all-nighter. That's how you do it.
And you
That's how
get
you do
them
it.
excited
You just
and
get
happy
'em
and moving around.
laughing and moving and noises coming from body parts and all kinds of scents in the room. And next thing you know, you've got to use space all over again.
Yes.
But yeah, we had a great time and very little sleep. I'll tell you right now, the teenagers of today, they are not the teenagers of yesteryear. They were tired. Like they were ready for bed.
Yeah.
And it was shocking. The adults that we had come volunteer, they were like, I can't believe these kids are falling asleep. I was like, man, they just can't hang like they used to.
No.
And it might just, who knows what it was, but we still had a great time. And yeah, I'm catching back up. I'm still feeling a little, like I was just saying before we started, I'm feeling like I'm in the position where I could maybe catch a cold. Like I'm feeling that way, you know, when you're feeling tired or a little bit like, you're like, oh, my immune system might not be as tough as it was 4 days ago. So outside of that, feeling pretty good. Feeling back on track.
Yeah, so y'all did a comedy night. Like, did y'all have, like, somebody, like, try to write, like, some stand-up? Or was it just, like, more in terms of comedy of, like, just the type of scenarios and games that we're playing? Like, how was that?
Yeah, so the key was like laughter and listening. Like that was kind of like the main focus. Like I did a teaching on listening. We talked about Balaam and the talking donkey and how God can use really almost silly scenarios to get our attention.
Yeah.
But also like he wouldn't have had to do that if Balaam had been listening in the first place.
Yeah.
And so we did a lot of improv games because with improv, you have to listen to the scenario that's playing out and pay attention to it so you can make the most out of it. And so we just had we just laughed.
Yeah.
And it was great.
Yeah, I don't understand, just kind of backtrack just a little bit. I guess whenever I was growing up and we were going to youth stuff, like if we ever did like a lock-in, it was, I mean, this is way, way, way before like energy drinks were a thing.
Yeah.
And, you know, they just had like Jolt soda and stuff like that, you know, throwback for that one. I think Surge was popular back then as well. But it was just, you know, we had pizzas and they laid out all night. And so if you got like a little hungry, whatever, but I don't ever remember anybody falling asleep except for like, you know, maybe like the younger kid or something like that. You know, just, I miss my mom, which is code for I miss my own bed.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, then my code that night was I missed my mom too. I get it.
Yeah, but well, I'm glad that that y'all had a good time and that y'all were able just to celebrate, the fact that y'all, this grand opening of these new rooms and spaces. How important is it because before the leak, the leak that we had this past Christmas, it was you had 3 or 4 rooms that y'all were spread across, which eternally grateful for, because there are some places and some churches that you go to that just are not fortunate enough to have the space to allow for that.
Right.
So obviously super grateful for those rooms, but just being, and now that you've opened up this past Sunday, so just having everybody in the same room, talk a little bit about how important that is just for these kids. Whenever they walk in, they're like, hey, wait, what? We're all in the same room together?
Yeah. We actually weren't certain that that's what was going to happen until the flood, because we did have different spaces. We had a middle school space and a high school space, and then we had a game room. Plus, we utilized the hallway spaces to be a part of what we were doing also. And whenever we did have the leak, the flood, that kind of took us out of those spaces, we had one room that we shared with Recovery Warriors, which truly was a gift to be able to have any place to go.
Yeah.
Because the alternative was, hey, we're not doing any youth interactions on Sundays until we get this figured out. But we were able to share that space, which was very, very cool.
Yeah. To help maintain some momentum.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
What we never anticipated, when I say we, I mean like our team, our student leaders, like never anticipated that we would see growth during that time. Like, 6th grade through 12th grade all together, like we were growing, and it wasn't just because they were all together. It was because new students were coming, they were making connections, inviting their friends, and it was one of those things where God was just doing something that we didn't see happen. Like, we didn't anticipate that happening. And then when we saw it, we were like, oh my goodness, like we need to maybe look for ways to continue this. If this is what is working, like, well, let's see if we can keep that going. And so when we reopen the space, it is 9 and 11 with the services, and it's 6 through 12, everybody together. Now, where they get their time separate is in groups. After the teaching moment, they split up high school and middle school, guys and gals, and they do group discussions. And that still gives them that space to be with people their own age, going through some of the same things.
Yeah.
But when it comes to like games and worship and teaching, they're all together.
Yeah.
And what I am seeing from that is younger students are able to make connections and look up to older students who are maybe a little bit further down their faith journey. They're probably listening a little better, maybe even taking notes. They're paying attention through worship or volunteering for games or activities, and younger students are catching that.
Yeah.
And whereas when they had been split in the past, it was like, oh, middle school acts kind of like older elementary age kids, and high school acts like adults. It's like, actually, there's a really beautiful blend that can happen of just, that's a huge, in that developmental stage, that's a huge gap of development. And it's almost like intergenerational, but on a tiny scale. Like, it's like, oh man, when a sophomore is interacting or mentoring a 6th grader, like that'd be the equivalent of me, a 30-year-old woman, being mentored by like a 50-year-old woman. Like, that's a huge gift to me, and probably to them in a way too.
Yep.
Like, and so it's like looking for opportunities like that in those spaces is really cool. And we're seeing a huge benefit from that.
Yeah. One of the things I can't imagine, but you have kind of like a better experience of this. I can't imagine maybe for someone that's been here, coming here for maybe a while, right? That's been part of the youth system since 6th grade, and they've seen things kind of changing, and having to go with the flow with everything that happened. I can't imagine, or maybe even someone that started coming to church while we are in the middle of this remodel.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody walking back there on that first Sunday and seeing their eyes light up, thinking, wow, there's a space for me.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk a little bit about the importance of how that could make someone feel, especially like a teenager? Because I mean, we're trying to be super intentional with like everything that we do here at Southridge. It's not just like we have a lot of conversations, a lot of meetings, a lot of sitting down and trying to strategize with little things here and there, talking with amongst ourselves, but also with our key volunteers as well. But just the importance of what that can do for someone walking into a space and they feel like, wow, this is for me.
Yeah.
Because obviously it's for them as individuals, but for the group as a whole. But I can imagine like if someone took all the time to do this, like I would just think that I felt like the red carpet was pulled out.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I'm trying to think, can you put yourself in someone's shoes like that and just kind of maybe talk about, like maybe that their mindset and their frame of mind that they were in, walking into their space for the first time.
Yeah, so it was really cool to see faces light up, and honestly, even to see some adults who just care about teens. Like, we had some adults who they don't volunteer with teens, but they've helped in fundraising or sponsorship for sending kids to camps or conventions, and they just care about them. Maybe they don't have the availability or the ability. I think all people probably do have the ability if the Lord wrecks their heart that way, but maybe they don't have the time or resources at the time to help, but there's still a heart yearning to help young people see Jesus and grow in that way. So we saw all kinds of people between teens and adults and people who are involved, not involved, all come and take a look at those spaces, and it was just really moving. And if friends who are listening, you come to Southridge Church, you look at those spaces, they're not like immaculate. They're not like, red carpet mindset, but they are intentional. Like they're designed to help teens feel at home, to feel like it's for them. And some of the planning didn't really go the way that I had planned. I don't know if anyone's ever made plans before, but they didn't go the way that I had maybe hoped or planned. But in that, like, God is so wild in the way he can even redeem like my disheartened feelings about some of the stuff, where we are able to say, hey, teenagers, like, what would you want for this wall? Or what would you want this hallway to be like? Like, what do you, when you bring your friends, like, how do you want them? We had them vote on things like the seating. Like, what kind of seating do you want? Do you want stools or chairs with a back on it? Like, that sounds so trivial, but just to have them have an input on it. And then when they showed up and they saw the exact chairs that they had said they wanted in that space, it was like, these are the chairs we said we wanted. I'm like, yeah, what do you think? I was just asking you that to waste your time? Like, come on. Like, we're going to try to make these things happen if we can. Because you matter, and we want you to know that. One of the things that we haven't done yet is we haven't put any pictures up yet. I love having pictures up. And when we start to do that, because we've done that in the past, even in those spaces that felt very borrowed, like, that's just the truth. And in my experience, I've only ever worked in youth ministries that felt like borrowed space. Before I came here, I was working in youth ministry where we converted a basement garage. Like, it was a borrowed space. It was never made for teenagers, but teenagers are very adaptable and they can inhabit a rock. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, they can figure it out. And so, one of the ways that we did that with those other spaces is through photographs, like pictures, posters, with them, like pictures of them, because you don't walk into a room and see your picture usually and say, oh, I'm not welcomed here. Like, it's the opposite. It's, oh my gosh, my picture's on the wall. Like, that's so cool. Like, this is my place now. Like, So that's a direction we want to keep heading towards some of that. But yeah, just letting them like walk in and see that like, hey, there's been a lot of thought put in about you in this room because you matter to us.
Yeah.
And the beauty of you matter to us is that, you know, we are following Jesus and chasing after a life with him now and forever.
Mm-hmm.
And because you matter to us, we want you to know you also matter to him.
Yeah.
And your life matters to Jesus and he cares about you. And we are going to talk about that here in a place that's for you.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's a cool opportunity for sure.
And being super intentional about those things and making it a place that it's very welcoming. There's a sense of safety that comes with it. Because there's a lot of situations that people come from that are of no fault of their own, the youth, but it's just maybe not the best situation at home or maybe school or just whatever. And having a place that they feel that they, or actually not that they feel, but they know is for them and they feel safe in it, it allows for a major guard to be put down, especially like a first time individual that is coming and just maybe checking out the church with their family or whatever. And that's what you want. You want the guard to be able to come down because you are having real conversations about Jesus and who he can be for each of us. And if there's a sense of safety, if there's a sense of like just overwhelming peace, like a welcoming atmosphere, then they're more open to receive the things that you're putting time and effort into to present the gospel in front of them. You know what I'm saying? It's like we're trying to alleviate all the little things that someone could possibly feel or put up or any kind of walls, and just say, hey, we just want you to feel welcome here. And in the meantime, we're going to talk about Jesus.
Yeah, for sure.
I've had conversations with people just randomly, and it's probably not the best way to share Jesus or invite someone to church because they're typically doing like another job, you know, like maybe a grocery store clerk or someone at the gas station or someone at the coffee shop or whatever. But because, you know, they're more preoccupied with other things that are going on.
Right.
But also, I'm still going to do whatever I got to do, but sharing the gospel in a place that people are more comfortable with, to where you can have just like a real conversation with them is going to be super beneficial.
Yeah. Well, I think of it like, so, it's almost, this is why we've changed some of the way we do like Wednesday nights even, is it's easier to have a tougher conversation around a kitchen table than it is in a like lecture hall. Like it's just easier to have a tougher conversation in a living room setting than it is in a classroom. Yeah. Like, and that's, I think that for years, and this is my experience too, and some of what I have even created is these classroom settings where I want you to learn. I want to teach you, teach, learn. When we forget that, how did we learn most of what we knew? We learned it from people at home. We learned it from, you know, maybe we didn't have a great home life, but our neighbors did. And we spent a lot of time at their house and learned a lot of lessons, like in the safety of their home, or we learned a lot of lessons at grandma and grandpa's, or like this feeling of like, man, this is a space where I can ask tough questions, that I can kind of navigate faith and know that I'm loved and cared about. And it's just almost marrying the two. Like, how can we teach you and like really spend time truly diving into scripture, but also how can we simply spend time with you and see where you're at and hear your voice and thoughts and whatever, and kind of help you navigate life and faith and everything in between. And creating a space like that doesn't really happen by accident. And honestly, it changes through the years. Yeah. Too. So it's always going to be shifting, and you can never really get too comfortable as the person creating that, as the leader or whatever, because when trends change or when whatever, like then that space is like, well, this is an outdated room. Like, what are you only doing ministry for kids 10 years ago, 20 years ago. It's like,
Yeah.
no, okay, you're right. Like, we need to do things different. But yeah, it's really not that, it's really not that complex. It just takes some intentionality.
Yeah. Now what's crazy is that you've got a testimonial of someone being affected by just your spaces that you have for the youth.
Yeah.
And the first Sunday that you had was this past Sunday.
Yeah. Someone who's really not that comfortable made a comment saying, hey, they are a comfortable person. Sorry. They're a person who normally has some maybe social anxieties or whatever. They said about a space that was created with them in mind, not them exactly, but with people in mind. They said, I just felt really cozy. I felt really comfortable.
Yeah.
And for them to have the first time. And then we had, I think I just got my stories mixed up. That was from a group meeting. We had a new student on Sunday also who came into the space and saw other teens enjoying the space and immediately got sucked into the enjoyment.
Yeah.
Like immediately, like they were doing some stuff, maybe like kind of like playing the guitar a little bit, like working with the youth praise team, and a new student came in and saw that happening and just kind of like, wow, what's going on here? Like they were just drawn to what was being done in that space.
Yeah.
And that's part of making rooms and making spaces for people is what is going to be done in those rooms? Like what is the plan for them? Because that matters too, not just how it feels, but like what's the purpose of this room? Because if we can cater to that purpose, then it just amplifies the importance of it.
Yeah.
And it worked for that student. Like they were really drawn to that. It was very cool.
Yeah. One of the things I'm really excited about too is that in these youth areas, something was birthed because of like the moving around with the construction and everything else like that, but working alongside of Walker, and he's the youth praise leader.
Yeah, praise team leader.
He's also like our worship intern as well, and I've been
Yeah.
working very closely with him and just trying to give him as much information that his brain can handle at times. But I'm just super proud that the youth are leading themselves in worship.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is that the kids that are still qualifying for quote unquote youth by age and grade and everything else like that, like they have stepped up and have put together a worship team, and they're leading their peers in worship, which is amazing.
Yeah. It's wild, man.
Well, it just, I mean, gosh, I can't imagine. I went to a church that had a youth praise band. I couldn't imagine. Not that this is wrong, but just what it would have been like if we were just watching YouTube videos, as opposed to someone that I know really well, that I've grown up with. We've gone to hangouts and we've done lock-ins and sleepovers and all that other stuff. Like that person's leading me in worship. Like that's like, I can't imagine like how amazing that must feel to see their friends leading them in worship. It's just, I'm just super proud. I'm glad that God's doing his thing.
Yeah, really.
I really
and
am.
That's really all it is. It's God. It's God. God's doing this thing. He's doing it for teens. We're seeing it happen with adults. We're seeing it happen with kids. Like where God is just like speaking to their heart. They're being encouraged and, compelled by the Holy Spirit to step up in ways of faith that maybe people haven't before. Maybe people they haven't known before. Like we all know what's been done. But what if it's never been done in their life before? Like that's still a new thing. Like, and so seeing them step into a praise team and seeing students volunteer on Sundays to reset the rooms or to get supplies ready, just all those types of things is just these ownership qualities of like, man, God has given me something to take care of. And I'm going to need to take care of it. And I think that's been a fail even in my own leadership is in terms of spaces and rooms. I don't know that I've always looked at rooms and spaces as something God's given me to take care of. Like, I've almost been burdened by them in the past. Like, oh, we got to clean this room because there's stuff everywhere. We got to reset this room. Like, what if the mindset changed and it was like, this room is actually something that God's given us as a resource for ministry.
Yeah.
And if we can look at it as a tool instead of like a hang up, what a really cool thing we have to help people worship, to help people learn, to help people feel comfortable, to have conversations about faith and take next steps. Like, that's what these rooms can do. They don't have to be a burden. They can actually be something really cool that help launch us into a better place in our ministries.
Yeah.
And that's where my mind is changing. Like, I can feel myself changing, and it's not always comfortable. And it's definitely not easy, but I definitely feel that it's important.
Mm-hmm. I'm super excited, even though it's just been 5 days or whatever since Sunday happened, and I'm glad that I'm a part of the ride, just because I've got 2 kids that are in the youth ministry. I haven't really had the opportunity to talk to them yet. I'm still letting them kind of process, but I just want to sit down with them and just say, hey, how awesome is this? Or like, you know, and just kind of get a feeler for them. But I'm excited to see what God does because God's going to continue to move and continue to work in people's lives, regardless of where we meet. Because there's people all over the world that meet in hiding.
In all kinds of places. Like we said, teens can like get used to rock caves. There are people who meet in rock caves. Like, they're just like doing whatever they can, and God still is there with them. Like, and that's like the thing that I'm trying to like convey. We talked a little bit earlier. There's moments where things don't feel the way that they should. Like when we were sharing a space, that was an amazing gift to have a space to share, but it wasn't our space, and we knew that. And so it wasn't totally comfortable. It wasn't but God was still doing stuff. Like, God was still growing things, because God is comfortable. Like, God brings comfort. Whenever we felt like there was a lot of unknowns, God is known. Like, even in those, if people are listening or watching that want to create spaces, whether it's in their home so they can open up for a small group, maybe it's in their workplace so that they can create a break room where they can have conversations with people because they feel comfortable. Like, whatever that looks like, working towards creating those spaces is important. But if you're not able to get there yet, know that God is still present. Like, God is still creating safety in people. He's still creating comfort through his kids here, us as citizens of heaven in this culture. We're able to be a part of creating safety, creating justice, creating security, because God offers that to us, and we can offer it to others. And you don't have to be in a beautiful space to create that for somebody. And that's a personal responsibility. Like, for us to be a place, like, think about your friendships or your family. Like, just being in their presence can sometimes change your mood for good or for bad or for ugly.
Yeah.
And it's like, we have a responsibility too. Like, we are a place that people can come to feel safe, secure, or we can be a place where when people approach us, they immediately feel judged or accused or uncomfortable. Like, that we have to answer to that too. Like, all of that kind of plays together. But I don't know where I really was headed with that, outside of spaces are important.
Yes.
And what we create is important.
Well, I appreciate you and just the leadership that you have. I've never told you this, because I think I've told you, like, you do a good job, like, with the youth, like, you know, because we work together. But just as a parent, like, I appreciate the fact that you actually take the time to put thought into every little detail to make sure that kids feel welcomed, that they feel safe, that they have a place that they can always come to. and I think that you're doing an amazing job, and to keep up the good work.
Thanks, pal. And I am going to tell you that your wife did text me. She did ask your kids what they thought about the space.
Oh, okay.
And I wanted to pull it up. She said the boys loved how the rooms turned out.
Yeah.
With a smiley face. Isn't that fun?
Yeah.
But as we keep going, it's almost like when you move into a house, and when you first move in, it's not really yours yet. Like you're there, but you haven't made it your own.
No,
that's where we're at right now.
Yeah,
still.
You've got to test out all the restrooms.
Yeah. Well, that is true. That is true. We need a new knob on this door. Oh my lands. But yeah, so as we keep going and keep growing, I told the students this week, our first weekend, like, look, if you have ideas to make this even better, let us know. Like, what are your ideas? Like, don't hold back. I said, I can't promise everything. One of the kids immediately yelled out, "Can we get hammocks?" And I was like, oh, you caught me off guard, man.
What?
Caught me off
We
guard.
need a fire pit. No, we can't.
I went, I like the idea. I don't know if it can happen, but let's all hold on to our ideas until after we're done. Because I was saying it almost like, hey, at some point, let us know. And it was in the middle of just like an eruption, and it was amazing. But I just, okay, great idea.
Yeah, you should have saved that for comedy night.
Come back later. That's a great improv bit. But yeah, so just kind of hearing their ideas and making it something that they feel some like ownership and some skin in the game. Like, oh man, I was a part of this. Like I helped create that photo wall, or I helped, I don't know, whatever it looks like.
Did y'all post any photos to social media?
We did a reel. That was all that we put out from Sunday. A reel with just a couple little clips from the day. It was a crazy day here Sunday though.
Dude,
it was wild. So I think that
it was palatable, whatever. It was very tangible energy.
There was so much energy in the building.
You could feel it in the air.
It was so great.
Leave me alone, Cheryl.
People were doing so many great things. We had meal packing. We had teens help with meal packing. We had the new youth space open. We had teens that were helping lead worship in that space. We had teens that were serving on other teams. Like we had some teens that were on First Impressions and some teens working with other areas. And I was just like, I saw so many faces, but I almost didn't see anybody like in the same space. Like, it was like we were all just spread out doing really amazing things for the Lord that day. And it was just cool. It was a cool day. Yeah. I would take that. I would take like a day of like everyone doing stuff versus a day of like we're all in the same room doing the same thing. Sometimes I like the days where we're all just spread out, like getting it done. Yeah. I like that. Yeah. I don't like it every single time, but I like it a lot.
Yeah. It was an amazing feeling just seeing, kids get checked in and they're like, oh, like they were just so excited to go back there. So
it was so great.
Are you ready for a mystery meat?
Yeah, I have a casserole if you want it. Do you want it before the mystery meat?
Sure.
It's a simple casserole. It's just when considering spaces, like I don't know if you guys did this in your home, but we did, like we talked about what wall color we wanted in our home. Yeah. Because we use our home for groups. We're like, we want something that's like welcoming. Well, it's a white. Like we chose a white, but it's called Greek Villa, so it's almost like a warm white. Yeah. It was very funny when I was painting it. If anybody is an Office fan of the show, the American U.S. Office television program by NBC, you're welcome. I just really had to let you know. There's
not the British version.
That's right. There's an episode where Michael Scott and Jan Levinson have an apartment together, and she repaints the whole apartment. And she's like, these walls were just so white. It was like, ugh. And then Michael goes, yeah. And then she repainted them eggshell white. It turns out eggshell white and regular white are pretty much the same thing. And that's what I felt like when I painted our house, because it was like this bright white, and then I painted it this like Greek Villa white. Yeah. And it almost looked exactly the same. You could tell you could tell where it was, like if I did a straight line. Yeah. But through the years, people have been doing this. They've been painting their houses with trends and painting their houses with different ideas. Yeah. And I wanted to let you know from sources across the web the most popular interior paint colors through the years. Are you prepared?
I am prepared.
I'll give you 3 guesses to what do you think some of them are. They're just like, and these are just shades. They're not exact. It's not like Greek Villa. It's just like shades of different colors. What do you think? Pick 3 that you think.
I would say, so we're having to pick like, is this like the color of the year?
Just like,
because I know that Sherwin-Williams has like the color of the year.
Yes, they do.
And then they blast it through all their social media and everything else.
No, these are just kind of like generic
the
hues,
most popular
like most
color?
popular. Yeah. Okay. So I'll give it. This is not on the list, but like orange.
Yeah.
So it would be shades of orange.
Yeah.
But that's not on the list. So what do you think?
I would say shades of gray.
Okay.
That I think it's a neutral.
Okay.
And not 50 over there. I saw it. I saw the gears turning.
Oh, no. There's only one shade of gray listed here. So anyway.
Hallelujah. Thank you. I would say blues.
Okay.
And maybe greens.
Oh, my gosh. Those are on the list. All of them. Blue is at the top of the list for interior colors throughout the years.
Yeah.
Gray is second on the list. Beige is third on the list.
There's too many doctors.
All the doctor office colors. Beige.
Dude, for real.
Green is fourth on the list. Mauve. You remember the mauve years?
Yes, I do.
Oh, man. Mauve, everything.
Was that like 70s?
I don't know. It just says through the years, it was a big enough phase that it made the top list.
Yeah.
Mauve. And then white. Simple as that. Interior colors
I got
through the years.
kids.
Those are the top ones.
I have kids.
Yeah.
Like, I can't do anything white. It's just everything gets dirty
Yeah,
all
it's
the
spooky,
time.
man. It's spooky.
I hate it.
I mop our walls. I have one of those spin mops, and because we have white walls, we've got pets.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't always survive, you know? And so I take the spin mop and I mop the what are those called that goes around the bottom of the wall?
The trim?
What? Floorboards? Baseboards? I mop those, and I mop like up the wall if I see stuff. I don't know if that's a rule, like you should or shouldn't do that, but that is what I do.
I can't even wipe down my walls.
You can't wipe
the
them
type
down?
of paint that we're in, because we're in this
right.
apartment. It's a flat paint.
Oh yeah.
So there's no kind of protection.
Yeah.
Like I can't wipe it off. Like if I start to wipe it off, it starts exposing the drywall.
Yeah.
And so I've got 3 years of handprints, and dude, it is bad. The Swiffer, yeah.
Yeah. I've seen people do that with the Swiffer the wall.
Yeah,
That's maybe where I got the idea.
I wish I could do it. I wish I could.
Yeah.
I would have done it every single day.
Yeah.
You know, because, we cook a lot on our barbecue. And so we have we eat ribs or chicken wings.
Sauces.
And,
yeah. You have saucy fingers in a house. I'm telling you. Okay. We're going off on a tangent here. If you're still with us, you're at the good part of the show. All right. So we had one of our first youth nights back, I think it was last semester, and I made crock pot meatballs with like sauce, like saucy, just a huge crock pot. And they're like, what's our snack tonight? I was like, meatballs. Like, I don't know. Like, meatballs and Italian ice popsicles. Like, congratulations. Don't tell your parents. Like, anyway, so we sent everybody back out for the night. The next day, I'm walking downstairs to like go tidy up or whatever from whatever might have happened, and there are legitimate saucy meatball fingerprints like down the stairs, like hallway. And I just stared at them. I just stared at these fingerprints and I went, oh my. And just kept walking. I wiped them up like 2 days later because I was like, if this is any indication of what the rest of this house is like I have no idea. It was awesome though. And then I thought about all my friends who have like kids, and then my friends who have multiple kids.
Yeah.
I'm like, y'all need to invest in some wall mop invention or something, because goodness.
Yeah.
Is awesome.
Alrighty. Time for the mystery meat. Oh, dude, this is so weird. Like, this thing is weird. This jar
has a mind of its own. The jar has a mind of its own.
It is weird because this is important. Not important, but this is like current events.
On topic?
But
It's current.
Yes. What's the first thing you would buy if you won the lottery? Because the lottery's up to like 1.7, 1.8 billion dollars.
First thing, well, if I won $1.8 billion,
obviously we're taking care of debt and all that. I'm talking about what's the first thing you are splurging on?
I would sell my car and get a new car.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes me very sad because I love my car. But she's getting old. She's getting there. She's 10 years old. She's still great, doing a good job. Everything that I need, she's there.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I feel the time bomb ticking.
What kind of car are you getting?
One that works really good. Actually, I'm really interested in electric. I know that's not everybody's into that. But I think that it is the direction that we're headed in the future, and I'd be interested in being part of the fun, trying it out. If it doesn't work out, that's fine. No feelings hurt. I'm a billionaire, so right? Like, hey, my electric car doesn't work out. I'll just sell it and get a different car.
I'm in the same boat as you, but on a different side of the boat. Okay, I am gonna buy a new car. That would be the first thing, obviously, because I want something that I feel is more reliable than what I currently have.
Yep.
But I'm going like old school, like completely redone, an old like Corvette.
That would be fun.
Or like an old pickup truck, like an old like Chevy pickup truck. I'm thinking like old, like 50s.
That'd be really fun.
Yeah.
Really fun. Yeah, I'm not pro electric car for any kind of reason outside of I just think that it's a really cool option.
Yeah.
Like I have no political gain or social gain. I just think that, hey, this is a cool thing. Yeah. And let's go that route. But maybe if I love it, I'd buy a couple more and give them to my family, or I don't know.
Well, the good thing is like, I mean, they're figuring out all the supercharging stations and stuff like that. So if you do take a road trip, like they're getting all of that infrastructure put in and taken care of to where it's going to make that more easier for people.
It's going to be an
it's
actual
easier
option.
Easier pill to swallow, an actual option for people to take serious. Because there's a lot of people that whenever they take vacations, not everybody gets on an airplane and goes fly to a different part of the country.
Right.
A lot of us, we drive.
Yep.
And that's just that's how we get around.
Yep.
And so that is a very, it's a great option if you are driving a lot. And once they get all this superchargers and everything to where you can charge it in 20 minutes or whatever.
Well, I'm not a billionaire, but if we end up with an electric car, it'll probably be for my husband because he works at the electric power plant and he's like, hey, for employees, we have free stations at work. We can charge up all day. I'm like, well, it looks like you might be getting the electric car before me because.
Does he work at the one in Poca?
Winfield. Yeah. Is that the same place?
I don't know.
Cheryl? No, those are different places.
Different places.
You've got non-natives on the pod.
Yeah, we're trying to figure out the map.
Winfield and Poca, is that like similar? Those are different. Oh my gosh! Please don't hate us. Don't unsubscribe.
They're in that same direction-ish.
Okay.
They're in a closer.
Does he work
direction.
at the big one that has like the smoke always coming off
of the
the
towers?
horizon?
Yeah, you can see them when you're driving on 64.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yep. Cool.
Yep.
Alrighty. That's it for today.
Go make a cool space, everybody.
Yes, but not with mauve.
No mauve.
All right. You have a good weekend. Thank you so much for listening in with us today. We really appreciate it. If you haven't done so already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. You can also follow us on social media, on Facebook, Instagram. And you can also watch the video version of this on YouTube as well. All you have to do is search up the Pastor's Potluck Podcast. From all of us here, we want to say thank you, and we'll see you next week.